Can an American spiritual revival save our Constitution? So, America faces a lot of crises, right? We've got the government shutdowns, DC dysfunction, violent division, crime, drug epidemics, gambling addictions, crushing debt, and epidemic loneliness. Could a spiritual revival be the answer? Something is happening in America. Thought leaders across the spectrum are noticing that Americans are questioning whether consumerism and materialism actually lead fulfilling lives. If a spiritual awakening is underway, what does it mean for our broken government and our broken country? Could this revival inspire solutions for our country's deepest problems? Could it give us the courage to amend the Constitution and give America a rebirth where we can all live together peacefully? Hello, America, and welcome to the Shrink DC Save America podcast. I'm Patrick Trepanier, author of American Restraint. Please comment, like, subscribe. It really helps get the word out about the show. Okay, so what are some of the evidences of this spiritual revival that I talked about at the top of the show? Major voices are noticing something's going on in America. Ben Shapiro pointed recently in the Charlie Kirk memorial that was attended by tens of thousands of people in Phoenix. He said it was kind of like a spiritual revival. Pastor Greg Laurie, whose story of finding Jesus and overcoming the 1960s counterculture in the movie Jesus Revolution, he says there are clear signs of a revival happening right now because he works with young people all the time. And journalist Salena Zito notes, something big is happening with America's young people. It has been building for the past couple of years. It centers on faith, purpose, and a renewal toward more traditional American values. This new American youth counterculture movement looks very different from the one that burst onto the scene in the 1960s. Here's some data to back up the opinions of these really smart people. First, Bible sales have increased 1 million over the past year. Some churches are noticing like a 15% increase in church attendance. Baptisms are surging across various Christian denominations. There was even, I think was University of Pittsburgh, their football players got involved and they had these just group baptisms. It was really cool to see that spirit working there at the university. And then lastly, I think a lot of people noticed this when Trump got elected last year, was that many Gen Z, especially young men, are shifting conservative, and they voted for Trump in historic numbers versus previous elections. So what does this mean for the Constitution? In a previous episode, we mentioned this really important quote. One of our founding fathers, John Adams, warned us about the Constitution when it was created. He said, this Constitution was designed for a moral and a religious people. It simply won't work for any other type of culture. You've got to have public virtue, he said. And fast forwarding a couple hundred years later, in 1986, Ezra Taft Benson, who some of you history buffs might know, he was the Secretary of Agriculture under Dwight D. Eisenhower in the 50s. He was also the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he gave a talk in 1986. He noted how constitutional principles, limited government, free speech, religious freedom, have been under attack for some time in America. His prophecy was striking. He said, I have faith that this Constitution will be saved, as prophesied by Joseph Smith, but it will not be saved in Washington. It will be saved by the citizens of this nation and by enlightened members of the church. So the key insight here with this quote is Washington, D.C. won't fix the Constitution. Washington, D.C. can't fix the Constitution. They have no interest in doing so. Citizens, especially the church, must do it. So why does a spiritual revival necessarily enable constitutional reform. This is a really important point on the show today. Our government grew massive, largely because we outsourced morals and community functions to Washington, D.C. As faith declined across America in the past, say, 50 to 75 years, government expanded to fill the void. So a spiritual revival reverses this decline. Strong families need less government intervention. That's just a fact. Robust communities solve problems that bureaucrats and politicians in far-off DC can't. And moral citizens require less external control. And religious institutions provide necessary social fabric, social capital we've talked about on the show a lot, that the government just can't replicate. So what's the path forward? Amend the Constitution to shrink DC and return power to the states. Let individual states decide their own cultural values. States like Utah, Idaho, and southern states could strengthen communities through moral and religious traditions, not through distant Washington politicians and bureaucrats who don't know these communities. Why does this matter now? The timing is significant. A spiritual revival gives Americans the courage and the conviction to demand constitutional reform. It provides the moral foundation to push back on hyper-individualism and hyper-capitalism and a broken Washington, D.C. that just won't fix itself. Without spiritual renewal, constitutional reform fails. People addicted to material consumption and government dependence won't demand limited government. So with a spiritual awakening, constitutional reform becomes possible. People grounded in faith and community understand they don't need DC running their lives. So in closing, it is important that we shrink DC in order to save America. A spiritual revival might be exactly what we need to give us the strength to make these essential changes to fix America. Now, I'm not saying that everyone needs to be Christian. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that this country was founded as one nation under God. I think America is special. And God has played a role in making this a great country that has helped a lot of people. Again, the Constitution was designed for a moral people. Perhaps we're only rediscovering what this means now. America can be fixed, but only if we choose restraint and structural reform. So just a reminder, go to conventionofstates.com. 19 of 34 states have called for a convention of states, Article 5 convention, so that we can go over some of these important amendments to the Constitution to shrink DC and save America. A spiritual revival might be what we need to push us to 34 states. Thanks. Have a great day, and God bless America.